Good morning, afternoon, or evening, no matter where you are or whenever you're watching this video. Welcome to Floating in Dreams. I have a new video for you today all about the last 10, well, there's not exactly 10 here, but the last 10 palettes that I tried. So let's review some eyeshadow palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today's video. Thank you so very much for being here today. I have 11 palettes that I will be reviewing for you today because those are the last ones that I've tried, but they are just by two brands, namely Pat McGrath and Colourpop, and both of the all of the things I'm showing you here today are things that I bought in the Black Friday sale. So I did get a bit of a deal on these. And in case you are unfamiliar with my channel, then you should know that I do regular eyeshadow palette related content, and that I also love doing videos about Essence and Catrice, and I like getting the use out of my makeup, which is why all of the palettes I'm showing you today, I have tried every single shade, and I will be showing you swatches and the looks that I did to try these palettes out as we're going along in this video. What you should also know about my content is that because I am a fair-skinned snow angel with a cool to neutral undertone, that I do come at things from a slightly different perspective than most creators on the platform. And if you would like to join my little snow angel club here, then please subscribe to the channel. Right now, let's just get to these 11 palettes. The first palette I have for you here today is the Pat McGrath Venus in Fleurs Luxe Quad in Voyeuristic Vixen. I always get the name wrong of this thing. I want to call it the Fleur Vixen. It's a quad. It's a long name for a quad. And this was one where I didn't really think I was gonna want to buy this at first. So when I first saw this being announced, I think it was released at the same time when she released her blushes last year. And I was like, that doesn't really look like my vibe. But then I traveled, I was able to find this in store and have a look at the physical product. And that swayed me, and I was like, okay, if she does this in a sale, and it took a while for this to be included in any sales, I'm gonna snatch it up. So for Black Friday, I was able to buy this. It has one matte and it has 3 shimmers. And I wore the look that I did with this in a couple of my videos that went live in April. And I just really enjoyed that look. These undertones, for some reason, even though they are warm, they do still work on me because everything has like a, I wouldn't call it red or a full-on pink, but it has this dusty rose kind of quality to it that makes it blend out very prettily against my skin tone. And this shade, I'm not sure if you can see this. Maybe, can I use the mirror? Can you just see that this has a bit of a flip? Like, it's not a full-on multi-chrome, it's more like a duochrome shimmer. It's got a bit of a wet, flaky texture, but it was very pretty all over the lid. I get a couple of really good other shades to complement this, and for once, there isn't a gold in this palette, which is something that Pat McGrath usually does. So I was very happy with this. This matte was really easy to blend all the way into the crease. I think I put this one in the inner corner, this one on the lower lash line, this one all over the lid, just to give these shades a whirl and to really see. But just looking at these 4 shades, I'm like, ooh, this could be a really pretty everyday look, you know, just that matte and that shimmer. What would happen if I were to top this shimmer over that matte? So this is a quad where I feel like even though you only get 4 shades, you have so many options. You can use all 4 shades, you can just use 2 or 3. And I think even like a shade like this could be a one and done shadow as well. So I think that this is a very clever quad indeed. This could very well be one of my favorite Pat McGrath purchases to date. That's a bold statement, but I already predicted in my top 15 all-time favorite eyeshadow palette video that I posted in April, that this could potentially make it into my all-time favorite eyeshadow palette list. And this is definitely one that I'm like now itching to go back to because I definitely think this has potential to really develop into one of my all-time favorites. It's just an easy quad, great to use for every day, but you still get this like extra thing because of those really nice shimmers that you get. I'm loving this. And the other Pat McGrath palette I wanted to list here is the palette I'm wearing on my eyes today, which is the Huetopian Dream. Now this was one that I wasn't going to get. When this was announced, I was like, no, I'm not gonna get this. And then I knew I wanted to get the other quad, and then I saw what her Black Friday sale actually entailed, and then I was like, well, but essentially, if I buy both of these things, it would boil down to like even less money than a full-on Mothership for 2 palettes. So I essentially got that one for free. And I was like, that's a really good deal. And I was curious whether this would work on my skin tone. And I'm wearing the bolder look of the two looks that I did with this in this video today. So let me show you the color story here. So if you know anything about me, you know that I love my cool tones, and we'll get to the cool tones once we get to the Colourpop stuff, because there's a lot of cool tones in the Colourpop selection I have for you. And this, it doesn't look that cool toned, and especially when you look at this in real life, it's very sort of like peach heavy. But I have found that with the Venus in Fleurs quad, that this, again, when it blends out, there's just something in the way these shades have been put together that it doesn't pull very weirdly on my very fair skin tone, and it still goes really nicely with my undertone. The only shade that I didn't love, can you guess? It's the gold. This very intense yellow tone gold just clashes with my skin tone a little bit too much. I tend to use these things as inner corner highlights or on the lower lash line and like not do too much with it because it's just not that pretty. But the shade that really surprised me in here that I thought I wasn't going to like is this one. I thought this was going to be a very intense warm tone shimmer, but then I put it on and it's a multi-chrome. It has a green, brown, gold, pink sort of flip. It's very different, very interesting. And when I put it on, I'm sort of like wearing it in the outer corner mostly, and also in my inner corners. Like I tried to do a bit of a halo eye, as far as I can manage doing a halo eye with my eye shape. But I really like how that outer corner just looks. It means that every single time you shift, that it's just going to look differently. And that's why I also even put this on the lower lash line, because I liked it that much. A shade I'm wearing in the crease, this is very vibrant peachy tone. And on me, it really doesn't look that weird. It doesn't make me look sickly. It doesn't make me look like I've got pink eye. It's actually a very flattering shade. And then what you get in here are some like dusty, rosy undertone neutrals that I think could have been very pretty in something like her Divine Rose palettes. That's what it very reminds me of. So these 6 shades, I think, like say for this one, like you just have a really good neutral toned quintet here, and then you have some fun pops of color to play around with. This purple was a little bit different for me. It has some actual texture to it, so at first I felt it didn't pick up very well with a brush, but I was able to build it up to full intensity, and when I used my finger it worked a lot better. This shade is really pretty. I just couldn't get enough of this. I put it in the inner corner in the first look I did, and then today I tried to like dot it in the center of my lid for that extra bit of like oomph in the center of the lid. And then because I felt that this shade was a little underwhelming, like I understand why she does this, because if you just want to do a very safe everyday look, then an inner corner highlight like this is going to be much better than something intense like this. But this, I decided to like top over that inner corner highlight because I just liked it so much. So this is also one that greatly surprised me. I didn't think I'd like it that much, but then because I was like trying to put together my top 15 like favorite eyeshadow palettes for spring, and then this really sprung to mind, and I was like, yes, these are like peachy pinks, dusty rosy things with like a pop of lavender. And then this has like the green flip, so you get this like earthiness. So in a way, this is like a floral bouquet in a palette. And so for this time of year, I think it's one of the perfect palettes in my collection, which is why I selected it for my spring palette video that I did this month. But the bulk of this video is going to be dedicated to Colourpop. So let me get to these things first, because these are the like not in the majority here. And these 3 palettes I've already rearranged. So the color stories that are currently inside here or not inside here at all are not original to the palette. So I'll make sure to pop a picture on the screen so you can see what the color story used to look like. And then I can just review them for you really quickly. The Colourpop Orchid You Not, I took out all of the shades and combined it with the Wine and Only into the Flutterby packaging I still had in a video I did last week. So I'll make sure to link my palette reorganization video for you because then you can see what shades I kept. I kept all of the shimmers and a few of the mattes from this palette because I just thought that that worked a lot better. I like the purples in here in terms of a good purple palette from Colourpop. I think this is the best one they've done so far in terms of like how the colors came together. I felt that It's My Pleasure, which they did before, was just a little bit too warm toned, a little too pink almost. And the Lilac You A Lot, which I do like, that was my favorite purple palette so far, was a little, it just lacked a little bit in the true purple department. So I think the Lilac You A Lot is like my light purple option from Colourpop, and then this combined with the Wine and Only, I think is like my burgundy plummy sort of pick for sure. I like the formula in here. It was on par with some of the other palettes that I've tried from Colourpop that come in this monochromatic kind of series. And yeah, I liked it a lot. I do think though that, again, as I have said many times before about Colourpop 9 pans, it's just that the undertones in the different shades don't always go together, meaning I don't feel I get as many versatile looks out of this as I, for instance, do with the Pat McGrath, which is just 4 shades. And with this, I can literally only see me do like 1 or 2 different looks, maybe 3. Of course, you can go with a matte and shimmer, and then you've got like, what, many more looks here, but that's just not really how I do my eyeshadow. I tend to use 4 or 5 shades at a time usually. And that's why this is definitely a palette where I'm like, I wish these would have gone together a little bit better, and then I would have liked this even more. But yeah, I was able to keep the shades that I love and stick them into another palette, and that's what I just think I keep doing with Colourpop shadows, is to reorganize them into color stories that do work for me, and then I think I can get a lot more use out of the palette. And then we have my Tinkerbell Sprinkle a Little Magic palette, and this color story, when I open it up, is a combination of this palette and the Of Quartz. So I decided to lump these 2 palettes together because I didn't love the formula of these larger pans that Colourpop now does. Can I show you this? So if I put the Orchid You Not next to it, I mean, I know they're empty, but you can still see. You can just see that this is a good deal larger, and this is why I'm now sort of like really on a Colourpop no-buy, because these big pans, while they are magnetic and you can exchange them again, these will not fit into the other palettes. So I feel that this is a ploy from Colourpop for them to keep getting people to buy their product by just changing the pan size and you no longer being making it very easy for you to change things around. I think that's sort of what they're doing, because they now seem to be coming out with nothing but these larger pans. And I don't know whether it was just because these were more like these were harder pressed or anything like that, but I felt, and this went especially for the Of Quartz, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but also in this one, I felt that the texture was just a little bit differently from what I'm used to with Colourpop. I find their color, the colors in the Orchid You Not to be very much on par with what I'm used to with Colourpop. They very easily pick up and blend very easily, and with this, I felt I had to work a little bit harder than I'm used to, which is no big deal because the look I did with this was stunning. It was a stunning green toned look with a bit of a pop of something more neutral. So that was really, really pretty, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed how that look came together once it was on. But the way I had to make this work for me, I just felt like, I think I could make this work in a little bit in a different way. Plus, after I had tried it, and I had sort of already predicted this as I was swatching this palette, here again, I felt that some of the green tones, like there were a couple of very bright grassy greens, and those aren't necessarily my kind of greens. So that's why when I reorganized it, I threw in a couple of the murky shades from the Of Quartz to still have some like neutrals and with a pop of green, which is what I was getting from the Sprinkle a Little Magic. But for me, this just kind of works a little bit better. So instead of like a warmer transition, I now have a cooler transition in here, and I feel it goes a bit better with these greens as well. So yeah, I really do enjoy the look that I did, but it's not the quality that I'm used to, and it could just be that these are harder pressed, not that the formula is any different. But with the Sprinkle a Little Magic, I felt that I was able to make it work just fine, but I didn't love it. And then next up we have the Of Quartz, and here we really have a different color story going on because I decided to repress some of my Juvia's Place palettes into this, and as predicted, the matte that I repressed is not going to have a very long life because that seems to be cracking quite badly. So I'm hoping I can still make it work, but yeah. These are some Juvia's Place shades that I repressed from 3 different Juvia's Place palettes that I wanted to keep, but the original color story is like this really pretty taupey gray color story, and when this was announced, I was like hoping that this could be like the perfect companion palette for my Going Coconuts and my That's Taupe. And then I swatched this, and I just, like with the Sprinkle a Little Magic, I was very let down with how these shades performed. So I felt that the shimmers were a little thin and just not as vibrant as I'm familiar with from Colourpop. The mattes weren't as smooth and easy to work with. And like with the Sprinkle a Little Magic, I feel I did a stunning look with my Of Quartz, but it was a feat. It was, again, hard work for me to make sure it all looked nicely and blended nicely. The shimmers needed quite a lot of building up, and I did keep, I think, all of the shimmers save for one from this palette, and there was a shimmer in here that was very thin and flaky and had very little base pigment to it without it really being a glitter. So I felt that that really needed, like, you know, building up for it to work. And I prefer a more buildable formula, don't get me wrong. It's just that with these, I just felt it didn't work as perfectly, which is why I ended up keeping the shades I love from both palettes, stick them in that one palette, and repurpose this one, and so that I was able to keep other shades that I love even more than the ones that were already in here. And then the next thing I have for you are a bunch of these little quads from Colourpop. And the reason why I wanted to try these was because I bought one of the quads last year called Cream Soda, and I fell in love with it, and I was like, okay, I want to try out some more. And a lot of people were raving about these little zodiac sign collection quads as well. So I thought, you know what, it's Black Friday, I'm just going to buy the ones that still appeal to me, try those color stories out to see how I feel. And I got one of the matte ones. This is Dare to Bear, because they also did a full matte range. And I'm not usually a full matte kind of gal, but a quad like this can just be really, really easy to use on a day-to-day basis. If you have this and your highlighter, you're pretty much good to go. I went with the more cool tone one. This comes an entire array of mattes, so you can find the one that works best for your undertone, and that's something that I greatly appreciate about this matte line that they do. The Dare to Bear was really perfect. It gave me the cool tones that I like. We get 2 like taupey browns, and then a cool tone brown, darker matte, and then just a cream, like off-white kind of shade. I perhaps wish that this was a shimmer. I prefer shimmers over mattes, especially because I have quite deep set eyes, and I just feel I need that sparkle to give my eyes a definition that I prefer having. And when I created this look, I decided to go and do something differently. At least I tried to. I'm not sure I really succeeded here, but I decided I could use this as a winged liner, which I never really do with eyeshadow. But I thought I could give it a whirl to see if I could make that work, and I quite liked the way that looked. I was, perhaps if I wasn't just trying out these shadows, I could have gone over it with a liquid liner to really give it a more defined look. That would have been pretty with an all matte. Like, if I were to go for something like this, I would definitely go in with a bit of liquid liner to really make a very sharp, defined eyeliner, just to give that extra bit of definition, because I feel that just mattes on its own doesn't do enough. But I wasn't let down by the quality of this at all. This was a really pretty palette, and I was very happy with the look that I created. So yeah, the Dare to Bear, if you are looking for good matte shadows, and this is the kind of Colourpop quality that I'm used to. So I was happy with this one. Because I love the Cream Soda, I bought another palette from the series that the Cream Soda came from, and this is the Sorbet. If you know anything about me, you know I like my rosy mauve tones, and this is mauve tone heaven, really. It was a little bit more dusty rose leaning than I had expected just looking at it in the pan, but it's very sort of, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what I get with the Pat McGrath palette, though a little bit more pink leaning. It's not as warm tone as the Pat McGrath, and we get 2 shimmers and 2 mattes here. Quality-wise, I really like the way this came together. I get a nice crease shade, a good enough shade to deepen things up. I felt that these shades also very much reminded me of the look that I can create with some of the rosy tones in the Natasha Denona Retro palette. So if you have the Midi Retro, there's this little quad of something more warm toned in the bottom right corner. And this very much reminded me of what those shades do for me as well. So I like the way this look came together. I like the two shimmers here. These are a little bit more flaky, so if you don't love any sort of texture in your shadows, you probably won't like these, because all of these little quads from this line come with a metallic glitter hybrid. So they're not full-on glitters, but they have a metallic base, and then they do have some visible sparkle running through it. For me, because I can stick them down without using an actual sticky primer, like a glitter primer, I don't count them as an actual glitter, but if you wear contact lenses, you may be a little bit more careful when you do purchase these or are looking into these, because then it may be good to know that if you get anything in your eye, there is that risk of having that sort of fallout. And then I have 4 of the Zodiac quads, and I want to breeze through these a little bit more quickly. I have the Never Taurus Apart, which is very pretty. It's sort of like a bit like Mel Gemini kind of vibes. It's warm tone greens. However, this shimmer just didn't perform the way I thought it was going to. It swatches better than it goes onto the lid, I find. And I always use a finger with shimmer shades like this. Even if I'm using something like a Pat McGrath, I always use a finger to intensify shimmers. I just feel that the oils in my finger just make it a lot easier to make shimmer show up. And I feel that in the pen, and also when I swatched it, that green to gold, like sort of yummy, olivey, sort of rich shimmer shade just didn't really look like that. It just looked like a gold. And I thought that was a bit of a shame, because it made it a lot less green tone than I thought it was going to be, because then this is essentially the only green you have, and other than that you just get like neutrals. So for me, this was also not the one that I was really lusting after when I tried this collection. I bought this as part of a set because I wanted to get another one that I did like a lot better. So this was like a bonus for me, and I liked it. I appreciated it. I think the look that came out of it was very pretty. It just wasn't exactly 100% what I had expected. The one that I really wanted was Like a Virgo, and I'm really happy I have this. Is this my favorite one of the 4? That's a bold statement to make, but this is like the softer version of Sorbet. If that is a little bit too warm toned for you and you want it to be more cool toned and a bit more pink leaning, this. Again, it comes with a shimmer that looks really pretty and flippy and like a full-on duochrome. When you swatch it and when you look at it in the pan, I didn't really get a lot of the duochrome once I applied it to the lid. I think you really need to build it up to a few layers for it to really show up like this. That's the only gripe I have here. But these two mattes were stunning, and I love that also this lighter shimmer just has a little bit more oomph. It's not too stark of a white, which I did appreciate. And the Like a Virgo was one that I really appreciated. In the same set, I bought the Head Capricorn in Charge palette, which, you know, is cool tone, so I'm gonna try it. Which is probably why this has sort of been overrun by something else that I have purchased before I'd even tried this. So I own the Kaleidos Cold Brew palette. I think that's what it's called. Their cool toned quad that they did. That definitely beats this. So that's why this is not my favorite. Is it a good cool tone neutral palette with 2 stunning shimmers? Yes. In here, I felt that that silvery shimmer that you get worked a lot better than the shimmers in the other palettes. So in terms of how these perform, I think this is the best quality out of the 4 Zodiac palettes that I have. We get a taupe matte for the crease. You know I'm down. And then this matte is a really stunning, like very cocoa brown kind of shade. I loved it. That shimmer. This is gonna stay in my collection just for that shimmer. Shall I live swatch it for you? Just because you're not gonna believe me. Like, it's so wet looking, so pretty, keeps going for days, and it does have a bit of a brown quality, so it's not too silvery leading. It's still like a very bright taupe. You know how I feel about taupes. And again, here the shimmer has just that extra bit of oomph to really make it work. And the last one that I have for you is the Tender Loving Cancer. And of course I had to buy the one that goes with my own zodiac. And this, I think, is the most unique one of the bunch. Like, the Capricorn one is quite safe and cool toned. The Taurus is just neutrals with a pop of green. And also the Virgo is quite like neutral and safe. This is a little bit more adventurous, and I really like how these shades come together. It's sort of like neutrals with a hint of plum. That's the way I would describe this. You get a like peachy toned sort of crease shade, which at first when I looked at this was like, how is that going to go together? But then we get this deeper plum to really sort of take it to the next level. And on me, the peachy shade definitely looked more neutral than it did. Like, it didn't have too much warmth. And then we get two shades. Again here, like this one has a bit of a blue flip. I feel it didn't really show up the way I had expected it to. But again, of the ones here, I think this worked best in terms of what it did on my lids. I really like that purpley shimmer. I really like that like duochromy kind of inner corner highlight kind of transformer shade as well. I think it just perhaps needs a bit more of a base for it to really show the flip. But I really like this. This is definitely one, like together with the Virgo, it was my favorite one of the bunch. So those were the 11 palettes I wanted to show you in today's video. A very successful run, if I may say so myself. There wasn't a lot here that was a true dud. Nothing was bad quality. It's just that some things just, I have other things that I prefer, or maybe I was just trying these for the first time and it just didn't work the way I would want it to. Doesn't mean that these are bad shadows, of course. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, that it was useful for you to see all the swatches and the looks that I did, and to hopefully also inspire you, if you happen to own some of these palettes, to, you know, inspire you to how you can put looks together with these, if that was something you were looking for. So thank you so very much for watching today. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more by me. I make several videos a week, and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.